Aloha and welcome to Connection to the Cosmos with your host, me, Dr. Lisa Thompson, where I have out of this world conversations with extraordinary people. Today, I am so excited to have on my good friend, Tanya Penny. We're going to bring her on in just a moment. But first, a couple of announcements. If you haven't had the opportunity to grab my free 20-minute meditative journey to meet your galactic family and guides, make sure you do so on my website, mysticmanta.com or drlisajthompson.com. And if you are coming to the Big Island, specifically Kona side, then come on one of my Big Island UFO tours, where you will see the night sky in a whole new way using my Generation 3 military night vision goggles. And you can find more information at bigislandufotours.com. And then I am once again so excited that my newest book, Awakening to Your Multidimensional Self, is now available on Amazon or off of my website. So check that out along with the Oracle card deck that goes with it. And now without further ado, we are going to bring on Tanya. Hello, Tanya.
Aloha. Thanks for having me, Lisa.
Yeah, so we have recently become friends and you live here on the Big Island. And so I'm honored to have you here with me, and let me share with the audience your bio and then we'll get right into the conversation. Okay, so Tanya Penny is an occupational therapist and trauma guide, spiritual alchemist, Arcturian Hybrid, author of Connect with the Divine You book and journals. She teaches, empowers, and supports you to fully love and be your true self, heal your body and past trauma, and wake up to the powerful soul that you are using her mind, body, soul methodology. For 25 years, Tanya experienced anxiety, depression, insomnia, and had issues with weight eating disorders. In 2004, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. This was her first soul wake-up call that there were some deeper issues in need of love, attention, and release that medications, lifestyle changes, and medical interventions couldn't touch. It wasn't easy. She had to peel back the layers and really look into herself, and it wasn't quick. It took years, but she completely healed. Tanya believes there is a place and time for Western medicine, but if you're 100% committed to healing all areas of your life, then it is time to connect with the power of your soul. Now she teaches the Therapeutic Meditation Process, also called T.M.P, and the Evolve Keys, trusting that they will find their way into the hearts and lives of those who need it and are ready to go deeper on their journey. She has been supporting others through virtual sessions, programs, and in-person workshops and retreats since 2008. So welcome, Tanya.
Yay. Thank
And
you.
are we totally
Thank you
frozen?
for that. You yes and no. We are going in and out of being frozen.
My video was freezing.
It's our energy. It's our energy.
Okay. Big energies. It is energy. So hopefully the audio is working okay, but yeah. So first, before we get into the work that you do, I would love for you to share with the audience your background. How'd you grow up? Spiritual, religious, something else, so we can understand the journey of where you are now.
Yeah. So I grew up in kind of a mixed household. My mom's side of the family was very religious, Catholic. And my dad's side of the family was complete nothing. I guess you could say atheist. I mean, my dad grew up Catholic, but threw it out. I guess when he became an adult, he had nothing to do with anything religious or spiritual, didn't talk about any of that. And, my mom, it was interesting. When I turned 18, I said, I'm not going to church anymore because I think it's bullshit. Like, I just felt like the Catholic religion that I was taught under was a punishing God. And I just didn't want any of it. And so she couldn't make me go anymore, and she stopped going. So I was like, oh, so you were just like, so it was almost like she was doing it because she was supposed to, because my grandma made her do that. But from a very young age, I just knew that that wasn't what I wanted in my life, even though I was forced to do that. It just felt, it felt wrong. It felt wrong. It was like people showing up. I think one of the other confusing things for me was, people at church were acting very different, including my grandparents, than they were acting at home. And that to me was like, well, why is there this disconnection? Why are they acting like these good whatever people, and then at home, they're gossiping, they're saying awful things, especially my grandmother, not so much my grandpa. But yeah, there was a disconnect, and I was like, I don't want any part of this. Yeah, I don't want any part of this.
Yeah. Well, so then how, like, I know just your bio, but knowing you, I know you've been through so much in your life. So when was it really that you started to be like, okay, I need to make a change here. Something isn't working.
Yeah. It took a while. So like I said, when I was 18, I was like, forget it. Because at that point, I didn't know that you could be spiritual and not religious. And I think maybe a lot of people in the Midwest, I grew up in the Midwest, in Wisconsin, like that we didn't talk about that. You were either religious or you were nothing. And so it wasn't until I turned 20, when I was 29, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And the first couple of years, I kept getting worse. I was on Western medicine, but it wasn't really doing anything for me. So I was going downhill quite fast. It was like I had a stroke on the right side of my body. I lost vision in my right eye. It was pretty grim. And I was giving myself, so a couple of years later, that was 2004, 2007, I was giving myself a shot of the medicine that wasn't working. And I heard a voice. And I was alone, so I knew there wasn't anyone in the house. But the voice said, put down that medicine. Like, I'm going to show you another way. We're going to show you another way, actually. And you can fully heal. And I didn't know who the voice was, but for some reason I listened. And I had actually been hearing the voice. I'd actually tried to go off the medicine a couple other times, but then my husband or my neurologist would be like, oh, that's like, you can't do that. Like, you're just going to, you have to stay on the Western medicine. So I think I know I heard it before then, but it was so loud that day that I could not follow what it was saying, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was my my segue back into spirituality, spirituality light, let's say. For a long time, I had a hard time with the word God because of my upbringing. Mm-hmm. So it was like Mother Nature, and then it moved to, maybe angels. So I started opening more and more. And at the same time, I was studying mind-body healing philosophy. And I don't remember when it was, but at some point I was like, it's not just mind body. It's also the spiritual, the soul that has to be included in that. And that is when things really started to shift in my life, I would say. It was after the healing was done of the MS in 2010, but I feel like the deeper spiritual probably was when I found out that my dad had sexually abused me. I know it's going to sound strange to a lot of people, but I didn't remember. All those memories were repressed until 2018.
Okay. My mother, just real quick, my mother had this similar experience, and she had these memories flood back in her 30s.
Yeah. Weird, isn't it? It's so interesting how we have this higher self that is protecting us until we have, I guess, the support and the tools, I like to say. Like, our higher self knows when we're ready for the memories. So yeah, I went to this this workshop. It was like 5 days, not just a workshop, more of and I don't want to call it a retreat because it wasn't fun. It was to heal trauma, because I knew there was some deeper stuff, but I didn't know what it was. Right. But I knew that there was something, I knew there was something because
I think we're freezing again.
We are frozen. You are frozen, but we can hear each other. I can hear you. So that's okay. No, you're unfrozen. You're unfrozen. It's all good. It's all good. It's the year of letting go of perfection for me. So.
Yeah. Well, and I can feel my Arcturians pressing on my neck.
Ah,
That,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot of heat right now as I'm talking as well. I mean, I did before. That's why I had to turn the fan on. And now I'm like, my body's feeling like, ah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So memories. Yeah. They came back in 2018. I was at this trauma thing, and then she suggested that I do combo. I don't know if you've heard of combo. It's
I haven't.
Amazon. It's toad medicine. Toad medicine.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I did not want to do it, but I did because I will do whatever it takes to heal. Like, that's just who I am. And that was when I was shown the memories of my dad sexually abusing me and my mom knowing about it and not stopping it.
Okay. So now that opens up a whole can of worms for
Yeah.
you and your family dynamics.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that rocked my world, let's just say. I never was close. Like when I left in my early 20s, I left Wisconsin and I never went back to live. I knew that I needed space for my parents, but I never knew why. Like I never knew why. And that made, I mean, I remembered things like, oh yeah, my dad was critical. My mom, she wasn't always a very nice person. She was very gossipy and yeah, just like vampire energy. I don't know how to describe it, but I'd always hated and feared her, and I never knew why. So, so that happened in 2018, rocked my world. Still don't talk to my parents from this point. Just isn't healthy for me to do that because they're both in denial about anything that happened. And let's see, what's the next important piece? Unless you have any questions about that, I'm going to go to my ketamine.
Yeah. Well, because I want to know. So I know that some people on here that are watching or listening, they may have experienced something similar. And I know people like my mother, she was never able to heal that part of her. And it's all about self-love. And so for her, she ended up having massive heart attacks and strokes and breast cancer twice, all heart chakra, heart-centered area, all about self-love.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Even though the MS was healed, still to this day, it's going to be fully healed. I know that, but I have some GI issues that I know that I've had since pretty much I was born, and those are due in part to the sexual abuse. Right, that area of the body is often affected, the second, third chakra, and actually the first chakra too. I mean, if you think about sexual abuse, it goes all the way up, usually even into the chest, right? Especially if they're pushing on you or laying on you or even your throat, choking you, right? Like all of it. So you can have issues. That's funny. They're just reminding me you do also have hypothyroid, and I'm like, yes, I'm working on healing that too. So yes, I was silenced. I tried to tell my mom and she said pretty much that's like, she ignored it. Like there was, and I don't know so much if she said like, it's not happening versus more like she just didn't say anything and kind of made it like it was normal. I don't know. Like, I don't have tons of clear memories about that, but just knowing that she did that. Right. Did that. So yes, absolutely. Like your mom, it's still as conscious as I am. And as much as I've been working on healing it, there's still parts of it in the body, right? Letting me know there's still more layers. And, the biggest one, again, back to spirituality, is really believing, fully believing, I can say it, but I am safe and supported. Right, by the universe, by my divine team, whatever people want to call it. I call it something bigger as well. So the clients I work with, I just want it to be kind. I don't care what you call it. And I want you to be able to trust it, whatever name you give it. So that's kind of where I am right now in healing that piece. And the other thing I want to add, which will come into the Arcturian piece as well, is, when I came to Hawaii in 22, I thought I had arrived and was done. Like I thought I was like I didn't have anything else. Like I had healed my dad's sexual abuse. I was like, made peace with my mom knew about it. And, you know, so I arrived here thinking, oh, it's my paradise. Like, and within 3 weeks, 2 weeks, I started having panic attacks. And I started having, like, at night, even with my partner in bed with me, and always feeling very safe with him, I started waking up in like severe terror, like that someone was going to hurt me, even when he was there.
Yeah.
Even when he was there. So I thought, wow, what is going on? And decided to try ketamine assisted therapy. There is a doctor on the island that does that. And
For
so
people who don't know what that is, can you explain?
yeah, so ketamine, and I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people hear ketamine and they think it's a street drug, a recreational drug, and it has been used that way. But over the past several years, the federal government has approved it as an actual, a healing modality when it's done in a certain way with a doctor, right? So it's not a huge dose, though it's a big enough dose. And what it helps you to do, well, let me back up. So a lot of people get it. So I would go to the office and I would get an IV, and there would be a nurse that was trained in this with me, and my counselor was there with me. And I did it with the intention of having those repressed memories come up. Like I knew there must be something else if this was happening.
Right.
So they did. I had about 15 sessions over a year and a half. And essentially it showed me that my mother was very physically abusive from the time I was born. Tried to kill me, pillow, drowning in the tub, all sorts of things, feeding me laundry detergent, all sorts of crazy stuff. So that was something I had to work through, obviously. Very, very disturbing, very sad. And yes, you're frozen again. I don't know if I am, but no, you're not. We keep having all this energy. We keep having all this. Yeah, it's odd. It's odd. And by the way, I mean, I've been on calls all day today and this has not happened. So
yeah, I know.
Yes.
I was on stuff this morning too.
Awesome. So yeah. So not only though did I get to finally have those unresolved traumas come up and be able to feel the emotions I felt at all of those times, which wasn't pleasant, but then now they're finally out of my body.
Yeah.
Right now they're finally out of my body, and is definitely a piece of my GI healing, my GI system healing still.
Mm-hmm.
There's still some residue, but what also happened during that time, which I had not expected, was first Mother Mary, Jesus. Jesus told me, I said, Jesus, why do you sound like a woman? And Jesus said, because I am a woman. And I was like, okay. Yeah. So I had some really interesting experiences. And I realized also later on that there were beings that were aliens. And I think I knew it, but I wasn't really sure. But they were like working on me while I was having ketamine. And I was being taken around in a spaceship. Again, I did not know this until probably the 10th. Like it was a ways in where I'm like, finally I asked, I said, who are you? And they're like, the Arcturians. And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, Jesus is an Arcturian. I'm like, oh, okay. So, and then eventually it got to the point where they're like, you're an Arcturian too. And I was very confused by that, of course. And so they showed me images of being taken up to the ship when I think it was 4 years old. And essentially they rescued me. Like I wouldn't have survived the abuse. And to think about all the abuse after I was 4 years old, right? As well, physical and sexual. that's like, I've always thought, like, how could I have been through all this? Like, how am I mean, I'm, not that I don't have issues, but how am I like half of my family's in jail? Like, my cousin is on death row for killing his 3-year-old son.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
there's some fucked up, like, this is not just me. Like, this is a family thing, is what the other thing I saw. They showed me when I was doing the ketamine therapy, like, this goes back through your lineage, right? The incest, the sexual abuse, the physical abuse. This isn't like both sides of the family, both sides of the family. And essentially they said, that's, you're here to help people, which I already knew, but I've been doing this work since 2008. But to the degree, right? To the degree of knowing. And so I was like, so I'm a full Arcturian? They're like, no, you came in as a human, but we rescued you. So it wasn't necessarily part of my soul's blueprint when I came in, but because of all the things that unfolded, they rescued me. And in order to save me and to help me get through all of that stuff, that there were healing modalities that they used on me and actually had to make me part of them.
Okay. Interesting.
So that I could. That was the way they described, like, it's hard to explain, but they said Arcturian hybrid. You're not fully Arcturian. You're not fully human. You're a hybrid. So that was just a couple months ago. I heard that one. So,
right.
So yeah, I was a little bit shocked. This is like, this is the first time of me like really coming out and talking about it. So yeah. Any questions?
Well, I know you're in safe space here with me. And
absolutely.
And I think, when we met, we connected immediately, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, there you are. And so I love
very
that.
Very familiar. Like, I remember I like saw you on Facebook or on I don't remember. And I was like, oh my God, she lives on the Big Island. I need to reach out to her, which is unusual for me because of still healing my past, especially with women. Mm-hmm. Like we've talked about it, right? Like I have a lot of trouble trusting women, and it stems back to my mom. But then of course I attracted lots of other women that mirrored that, not to that degree necessarily, physical abuse, but definitely verbal. And yeah, so this deeper healing of my mom's stuff, which the ketamine assisted therapy was part of what helped me to do, as well as the other tools I have, allowed me to reach out to you. Like I hadn't reached out to anybody in like 2.5 years since I've been here. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, it's time. I actually said it was time. And then you popped in like a day or two later.
Crazy. I love how the universe works like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm ready for a friend. I'm ready. And it's not going to be like my mom. Like it's going to be all the, I worked on that beliefs. I had to really work on shifting that belief that I can't trust women. All women are going to hurt me. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And that's an important thing, I think, for the audience to hear, whether it's trust in women or trust in men, right?
Absolutely. It's the beliefs, how we're treated by our mom and dad growing up, and siblings too. And then of course, when we go to school, but it's that very young age and how you were treated that causes you unconsciously to take on belief systems about yourself. Mm-hmm. One of the most common ones in the world is I'm not good enough. And, you better believe I still have to, on some level, work with that one. I mean, I was on you talked about self-love before. I was on like a zero. I hated myself. Which I think is really common when you have abuse. You blame you say to yourself, it's because I'm not good enough. It's because I'm bad. I'm wrong. I'm broken. That's the reason why they would do that to me. Right? Because parents aren't supposed to do that.
No.
Right? And think about it. It doesn't have to be as extreme. I know some of you listening are like, yeah, but I wasn't sexually abused. I wasn't physically abused. It could be as subtle as little put downs. little corrections, little put downs. But if it happens every day of your life,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get the message, I'm not good enough. Right. So we got all those beliefs, and the beliefs, however you were treated by dad. So I definitely had to work with the belief, like, men just want me for sex. Men will always cheat on me. I had to work with that one because my dad was a cheater. And essentially, when he stopped doing what I thought was love, that little girl thought it was cheating, which sounds really fucked up.
Yeah.
Excuse my French, but yeah, I had to work through a lot of shame, like facing those, like, oh my God, I thought that was love. Oh my God. Right. So yeah, crazy stuff. But yes, we all have belief systems given what we experienced in the past. And the cool thing is that your reality now shows you what you believe.
It does.
It does. I don't like it all the time or usually,
Right.
but
Yeah.
when it comes up, I'm like, oh, why? And it's like, oh, I must still have a belief about this, a limiting belief, because if it's not what I want. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I write about in Awakening to Your Multidimensional Self. It's about clearing away these blockages, these traumas, and these self-judgments, because the more that we judge ourselves and have that guilt or shame, then we are keeping ourselves stuck in a very limited reality.
And your body. So it shows outward, but it shows in your body too, right? Like
it does.
100%. I forget what the experiment, the water thing, right? If you labeled the water fear versus love, like, look what it did to the water. Gross, right? And so it's like, wow, no wonder I'm still having GI issues, because almost my whole life I held the belief I'm bad. Right? I'm bad. I'm unlovable. I'm not worthy. I can't trust people. I can't trust God or my divine unseen team, whatever you want to call it. Like, so yeah, I mean, and to think about it, Lisa, I mean, we know this, like, this isn't just this lifetime.
No.
Like, this is happening. Similar experiences are likely happening in other lifetimes. And so we're carrying all of it.
We are. And what I love about us having this conversation, because, the whole worthiness and self-love kind of issue, that was me, like, needing to rediscover that. And it's onion layers still being peeled back.
Always.
Yeah.
I wonder if the onion will ever be peeled. I don't know.
While we're human, that's a really good question, because, I mean,
I've been told no. I've been told once it's all done, then we wouldn't still be here.
Right. And that's what I've been told too. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't work on it or that we can't.
Oh, no. I mean, just like, absolutely. And like, just to be clear with everyone, like, my life, even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, was nothing like my life now, right? Yeah. Like, it has, with all the healing I've done, all the layers, it has continued to get better to the point where, I'm living in Hawaii, doing what I love to do and getting paid to do it, have a partner who I never imagined I would ever have, like someone that would ever just love me and accept me for me.
Yeah.
Not that we don't still have things that we need to work on. Like,
all relationships.
We're human. But, live in a nice place, like, just like all of it, and I'm not going to stop, because I want even more. Like, my soul wants even more. Like, I want everything. And of course I want this GI thing to be gone. But the cool thing is, it's letting me know there's still more. That's the cool thing about, even, some people are going to be like, are you crazy? And illness is cool. It's just your soul letting you know you still have more stuff to heal, right? Deeper layers. So it's, I think that's one of my biggest messages to people that have an illness is, number one, it's not your enemy, right? It's your friend. It's your soul. That's, one of the ways our soul talks to us is through our body, because otherwise we don't listen.
That's very true.
Like only humans only tend to listen if they're, especially unconscious humans, if they're in extreme pain,
Mm-hmm.
right? We need a 2x4, right? So the MS was one of my 2x4s. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, what I love about that story, that piece of your story, is that people who think they have this lifelong illness, right? That, and Western medicine is like, you're just going to keep getting worse.
Oh my God, I was told that my neurologist, my first neurologist said to me, you might as well get ready to be in a wheelchair. I was
Yeah.
29.
Right. Yeah.
I'm glad I did not believe him.
Well, me too. And and look at you. You're out on the weekends paddleboarding and doing other things. You're not in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
So
no, I don't run anymore, but that's because of a knee injury, not because of the MS. But yeah, all the MS symptoms were gone in 2010 and never returned. So
yeah.
yeah, but
And they
still,
don't need to. They don't need to.
no, no. And I'm glad you're bringing that up. Things only return if we go backwards to the way we were doing things before.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if, there's so many, I'm going to be doing a self-love retreat. There's so many pieces to self-love that we don't like. Self-love isn't just getting a massage. Like that's part of it. Right. But people think, oh, well, I'm doing those things, but it's so much more. Right. One of the biggest pieces of self-love that I talk about, which is so important, especially for those of us who've had abuse. Um, but I mean, really for everyone is boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Most of us are not taught healthy boundaries. We're taught we're selfish
Yeah.
or we're bitchy or we're. So yeah, I think this year, one of the biggest themes that people are working on, at least my people, are healthy boundaries.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. With self and others. Because
Yeah.
it starts with us.
It does. Absolutely. Well, so for people watching or listening, I mean, I know some of the audience is definitely resonating with your story. And so what kind of clients come to you and how do you work with them?
Yeah. So people usually come in through two doors, either the illness door, or they know they have deeper layers of trauma. So they may come in through the illness door and not be aware that they have that it really comes down to trauma. And when I say trauma, I want everyone to know that it doesn't have to be the extreme sexual abuse, physical abuse. For some people, it was being teased at school.
Mm.
For some people, like so there's a spectrum, right? There's a spectrum. And so it's funny, a lot of people will say to me, oh, but I didn't have it as bad as you did, or as bad as this other person, because we're part of our working together as a group program. And I'll say, we don't compare trauma, right? We don't compare trauma. So it can be something really tiny, but to a child, that is huge, right? I mean, I was teased at school too. Like, that's not fun, right? That's not fun at all. So people usually come in through one of those two doors. And the way that I work with people, it's a hybrid. We do private coaching together, but we also have a group component every month. And I'll say this, both are equally important for my people because, again, most of the people I work with have severe trust issues, especially in a group.
Mm.
And so to be able to first by me have, first of all, the unconditional like listening and acceptance and non-judgment, like that I can provide. Like I have people that have told me the craziest, most awful things. And, I don't judge them. I don't judge them at all. So I think that's an important piece. And then in the group program, it's important because, again, we have to learn in a group, because many of us weren't safe in a group, that we are now, that we can have a community, a new family. So a lot of my clients tend to not be close with their families and maybe not even talk to them like mine. Though a lot of people, their parents have passed, but they still may have siblings or, other people like that. But essentially, I walk people through in that setting. The 10, I call it, well, it's not 10 anymore. It's the Evolve Keys. And there's actually 11 now that we walk through. and we focus on one every month and really give it a lot of attention. So, for example, next month is you are lovable, worthy, and good enough.
Hmm.
Right. So that's a piece that we work on, and we do it in a lot of ways. So I have a lot of journaling prompts. I have 3 tools, given my own experience, that I came up with. One of those is the Therapeutic Meditation Process, guided therapeutic meditation practice. Those are 2 different tools. And I would say that one of the most important things that I'm encompassing with all of it is really learning to be that divine parent to yourself. Right. So you could say it differently. You can say divine masculine, feminine, right? But that we're learning to shift from the shadow masculine, feminine, because we all have masculine and feminine, that we're shifting into the divine, what I call the divine mother, feminine, or masculine father, to that inner child, right? That part of us that holds all of those, that had all of those quote unquote negative experiences, that holds all those beliefs, limiting beliefs and fears. So, essentially, as we walk through the keys, that's what we're doing, and really looking at every area of our life. We spend a whole month on boundaries. We spend a month on connecting with your something bigger, trusting yourself. So those are just a few of the keys that we work through. Yeah.
Beautiful. So, talk more about the retreat. That
Yeah. So twice a year I do 2 in-person retreats, and it's for people that are in my year-long program. So coming together in person, again, it's like the next step. We've had one-on-one virtual, group virtual. Then it's like, okay, I'm ready for the next level. I'm going to come and be with people in person, and it's a small group. It's 5 people. And we focus on a couple pieces. One is, what is the primary wound that you're here to heal during the retreat, as well as what area of your life do you feel it's been negatively impacting, and what do you really want? What do you really want in that area of your life? Let's say relationships, partner. Yeah, let's say partner. Health is almost, oftentimes a piece of it too, but as we know, health is impacted by the wound, whatever the wound is, right? So yeah, usually they're 4 to 5 days. In Hawaii, they're 6 days because people have to come a little bit further. But yeah, there's a combination of, I really structure the retreats the way I like to retreat. I've been on a lot of retreats, and I don't know if you've ever been on one, Lisa, that starts at 7 in the morning and goes to like 10 at night. Like, I don't like those types of retreats.
Yeah.
So I always said, when I do a retreat, this is the way I'm doing it. So we typically meet 3 hours in the morning and do all sorts of things. There's different practices and journaling prompts, and there's some gentle yoga and some music stuff. And then people have time to nap, to, go to the hot springs or go snorkeling or process. And then we meet again late afternoon, evening for another session. So it's a combination of, deep healing, but also just time to connect with yourself, but also connect with others and actually play and have fun.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just all, I joke, it's just not all crying. Yes, there is that, but then there's a lot of laughing too. Right. So I get to bring that in, because I think a lot of us, again, we didn't have that, that safe group where we could really play without feeling like we're going to be criticized or teased or whatever it is. So I think that's an important piece to come and do that live as well. So, yeah.
Well, so I'm going to just switch topics just real quick before we finish, because I want to just get back to you really discovering the Arcturian side of yourself. And I'm curious how that has impacted you and your life, like knowing that now.
Yeah, I would say it has given me more clarity on why I'm here and what I'm doing. Like, I've always like, oh yeah, I help people do emotional healing. But knowing that I'm Arcturian, and that's like one of their gifts.
It is.
It's just, I would say it just gives me more confidence, maybe is the word. I can't think of a better word than it, but just, yeah, more, I feel more solid in what I do.
Yeah.
And I think it is also, it's been interesting. The first time I came out with it to my clients was actually at my last retreat in Ojo Caliente. The clients that were there, and I did because they're all Arcturian too. They didn't know it, but they did by the end of the retreat. I hadn't planned on that. So I think what it has shown me as well as my divine clients are either galactic starseed, pure, right? Or a hybrid like I am, is what I'm finding when I go in with all of my clients. It's very interesting. And it's so cool because everyone I work with wants to know what their purpose is, like we all do, right? Like, what's my soul's purpose? So that's one big thing we focused on. And now I get to say to them, go read the definitions of the starseeds. Which ones do you resonate with? And then we can, because I always like to have my clients try to receive guidance for themselves first.
Same.
Yep. You know, I'm here to empower. I don't want to have power over you. I'm here to empower you to, or have you take your power back, really, and or remember how powerful you are, however you want to say it. And I think that's a cool piece that I can add in now, and I can tell who is ready for it, and not everyone is yet, but they're getting there. And I think this is a year that is, you know, I think it used to be seemed as weird, right? Like, oh, like ET, like, yeah, like, oh, they're bad. They're out to get us. And, you know, I think all those, again, limiting beliefs and fears. Whereas now that I had the experience I did with the assisted ketamine therapy, like, I can see that that's just a belief that's been implanted in us too.
Yeah.
And that's not true. You know, are there quote unquote bad? Every species, every species has the light and the dark, every species. And we do within us as well, just varying degrees.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that I just want to add on for that I've come to understand about us really showing up in the Arcturian form in this life, because we're multiple, many things, right? We're not just Arcturian, but we had to go through massive emotional stuff in this life. We signed up for it at the soul contract level so that we could have compassion and empathy for these humans that we are here to support and help through their own healing.
Yeah. How would we, I'm so glad you brought that up. How would we know how to give that unless we had to go through it? Like, right. That's empathy, like real understanding.
Yeah.
Real understanding. And through that, we can have compassion on a much deeper level. It was so crazy. I remember, I just want to add real quickly, like when I was first diagnosed with MS, I went back to work way too soon as an occupational therapist. I was working with people who had MS at the time too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It was crazy. And I had just started that job 3 months earlier. Yeah. And was working with people with MS. And so I come to work after I'm diagnosed, and my boss says to me, I know this is really awful for you right now. And she had been through her own medical things. She said, I know this is really awful for you right now, and it's going to help you be a better therapist now, guide and coach, right? She's like, you'll understand now what it's like to have an illness, to have a quote unquote injury. And you're going to be coming from a much different space than someone who has never experienced something like that.
Yeah.
So true, right? So true. It's compassion. Yeah. Compassion is what is going to ultimately uplift the planet. So.
Yes. Well, so in our last little bit of time here, can you share where people find you and what socials you're on and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So tanyapenny.com, pretty simple, TANYAPENNY, just like my name on the screen. And from there you can, there's a few things you might want to check out. I have a free gift called the Evolve Blueprint, the Evolve Starter Kit. So you get a peek into all the keys, and I also give you a sample of the tools that I talked about today. So you might want to check that out if you're interested in my work. I'm also on YouTube. Again, it's just youtube.com/Tanya Penny. And I'm on Facebook, but you can find all of those links just on my website, tanyapenny.com. That's probably the easiest way to find everything. They're all in there on top. So yeah, and I'm on Instagram a little bit as well. I'm not big into social media. I don't know why. I never have been. But I email my community. If you sign up for my starter kit, I email my community once a week with good stuff. So,
Well, I appreciate you being here with me so much, and I appreciate our friendship.
yeah, me too.
And for those of you watching or listening, as always, thank you so much for being here with us. And hopefully, if this resonated with you, reach out to Tanya. Her work is incredible, and I am so fortunate to have you as a soul sister.
Oh, back at you, my sister. It's amazing. Just how you came in, how we met. It was very, very synchronistic, divine. And thank you for having me. And for everybody that's here listening, feel free to reach out. My email also is tanya@tanyapenny.com, at least right now. It might change in the future, but there you have it. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you. And I'll see you next time on Connection to the Cosmos. Aloha.